You are currently the only person in this conference.
Hey, Dom, how you going, mate?
Hi, Mike. You woke me up between the
Can you make
sleeps.
me a presenter? Sorry?
Hang on, I'll just turn you up. Hang on one sec. Sorry, repeat that?
Can you make me a presenter?
Oh, sorry. Yes, now that you're here. Presenter.
Awesome. Now I can upload my document.
Wonderful. Right, well, give us a hoy if you need any assistance. Otherwise, I shall introduce you in about 15 minutes.
Right, I'll take a quick wee and, do my hair and stuff like that.
Yes.
Um,
Put some clothes on if you're going to use the camera this time.
yeah, sure. I've got my Moodle shirt on today. Nothing else. I've got the Moodle shirt on.
That's right. Just don't stand up. This is being recorded. Never mind it. And I shall try with all the pomp and ceremony to introduce you. I'll have some
Awesome.
music in the background. Actually, I'll
Yeah,
try and find that track that I'll play for you.
Oh yeah. Stefan. Hello, Stefan. I'm just going to head off for a minute, Stefan. You're holding down the fort, okay? All right, you're in charge. I'll see you in a minute. Bit laggy. Yeah. Do like the Zoom stuff though. The coming and going.
Looks good from here.
Yeah, but I find, like yesterday when I was giving him a presentation, he'd click to go to the next slide, and it'd take about 2 seconds. Come back.
Oh, that's
So, which is okay, but you've just got to work with it.
you got to make sure you talk for the slide more than 2 seconds. Then.
Yeah. So I might warn people, if I just stop talking for a couple of seconds, I'm still here. It's just. Hello, Gareth. How you going, mate? Your mouse server. You hear a clattering of dishes here. It's just serving up. I might just go mute for a few minutes to spare you. Alrighty then. Apologies for the backlighting in here. At least it's not a shine off the top of my head. Mind you all. I'm not wearing my Moodle t-shirt today. Can you? A bit of a nerd. I'll get my nerd on today. Spock t-shirt. Oh yeah, yeah, that's just for iMoot. Okay, we just want to make a big deal here that iMoot is a big party. Actually, my son has his birthday party, so very colourful here still. Indeed. My daughter's a freak with the Vulcan hand stuff. She's just like both hands, and she can swap fingers and everything. Anyway. I've got a comment from Gareth already. Hi Gareth, sorry I missed your comment before. Huh. We did include that. Ah, yay! Thanks, Teresa. How did your presentation go, by the way? Run some tweets right now. Two. You awake, Dom? No. Sorry, mate. Yeah. I think Gavin's coming.
Hello, Mike.
Ah, hello, Dom.
I'm just about to introduce you, and
Okay.
I thought I would have the appropriate music in the background to do so. To go with that t-shirt of yours.
Inspiring.
Let's see, I'll start back. All right. That's enough of that. Well, thank you, Mike, for being able to present for us today. Today you're doing a presentation on helping us make Moodle better. Didn't know it could get you better without the tech to it. Well, thanks very much, Mike, and off you go when you're ready.
All right. Thanks, mate. Well, I know everybody here except for Megan, although I may well know you, Megan. We met. How about everybody says hi to Megan? Hi, Megan. I feel like there's a choir building and at the front. Where's everybody from then? Everybody. Hello, Megan. So I'm in Perth, Western Australia. It's 6:30 p.m. here. Where's everybody else? Devon? Holland? So I figured we'd have coverage from New Zealand through to UK. Ah, where in the Blue Mountains, Megan? I grew up in Springwood. I live down the road from my mum. Glenbrook. Yeah? Yeah, my wife went to St. Columbus. We got married there. Yeah, I used to go to Winmalee. I was a public school kid, but we used to go to Catholic church there too. Spooky, huh? Right. Londonderry. All right. Sorry, can everybody hear me? Sound check. Sound check. Okay. Righto. All right. Well, let's get stuck in anyway. If you're doing tweets, use the Salvatore. That's my little tag. I'd appreciate that. Someone asked me to do this presentation. It was a request, and I guess it's being recorded, so people may still continue to join us as I start. But if not, we've got a record of it that might benefit people into the future. So we're talking about making Moodle better, particularly with improvements, bug reports, and so forth. But the request that came to me was the person who made the request felt that when they're involved, they can often feel overwhelmed by the community of developers in particular who talk very techy and can be a little intimidating. So what I wanted to do was go through the process of being involved in particularly in the tracker, but in systems in general, in a way that was non-techy. And if I achieve that, I'd probably be doing very well. Righto. Oh, by the way, there's like a 2-second lag when I click the button to go to the next slide and when it actually appears. So if I pause, I'm not sort of falling asleep. It's that I'm waiting for the slide to change. Who am I? Well, my name is Michael. I'm a family guy. I've got my wife Erica and 2 kids there. Isaac is 9 and Hannah is 11. We live in Perth. We live in the sort of suburbs here. Yeah, just sort of 2 years now in Western Australia, and we're pretty settled in, I suppose. I also do a bit of swimming. You can see my swim group there. I'm in the Masters. I'm a spring chicken in the Masters, but some of those guys are pretty darn good. And we've got a great coach too. And so I really love swimming, and my son is also involved in swimming. Yeah, so it's a great sort of lifestyle here in Australia. If you can afford it, it's a bit expensive to live here at the moment, but yeah, it's a pretty free way of living. Clicked, and I don't know when this appears for you. I have a Moodle story, I guess, and I wanted to sort of share it with you, how I became involved in Moodle. And if you've seen one of my presentations before, you probably already know this, but anyway, so I was an academic. I'd been teaching, mostly computer science, for about 12 years. Got my PhD and some qualifications in education, particularly tertiary education teaching. And so I was quite enjoying that. But we sort of at the university started to get involved in Moodle. I was sort of tapped on the shoulder to head up a trial, and then I was on various committees to decide if we should go with a new LMS. And when we did, it was Moodle. At the same time, I was supervising some students doing projects involved with Moodle. These are sort of master's level students. And well, in my teaching, particularly of undergraduate courses, I had certain desires to create little add-ons for Moodle, including the one that you can see there is the progress bar. So mostly I created those for myself, but obviously they were sort of done from an educational point of view as a need. I wanted to sort of allow students to do a lot of work in the course without necessarily being overwhelmed. There's 2 Gavin Henricks in here now. How is that possible? Yeah. And then I guess I got further involved. I started sort of working with Anthony Borrow, who is the current add-ons coordinator. And he is a very inspiring guy. I hope you've caught some of his presentations earlier in the iMoot. And so I was doing reviews of plugins as they were submitted to be shared. So it's code reviews and a bit of testing. But being an academic, you've got to sort of justify your time. So one of the other things I did was I wrote a book, and it's still available, but it sort of became outdated almost immediately because Moodle 2 came out only a few months later. And anyway, I digress. Although, you know, it was getting to the point where I was involved in the community, and I was sort of looking for a change in career. Academic life is wonderful, and I'll probably end up back there one day, but I wanted to start using the skills that I'd developed over time for a bit more of a real-world application. And Moodle seemed like a great sort of community to work with. I talked to Martin. He said there's a need in Perth. We need more developers. We need more experience. And so I shifted across the country from Queensland over to Western Australia. And that's where we are now. So what do I do in my role? Well, I do a lot of hand gestures, as you can see there. This is me presenting in Japan, you can't tell. Yeah, so I've been to a few moots like this, and I really enjoy that. I love the iMoot, by the way. It's a wonderful way of presenting. It's like I'm doing a very personal thing, talking to you in your living room. It's more of a one-on-one thing, and I really love that. It's far more casual than certainly than a moot or an academic conference. I'm also responsible for various parts of release, so the release process. I'm sort of the process guy really at Moodle, making sure that people follow various processes. But when there's a release, there's a lot of processes that we follow. So release notes have to be created. There's a security release sort of information that has to be disseminated. All sorts of various things. I don't do it all by any means, but I guess I have to make sure it happens and happens on time. So when it's late, you know who to blame now. Anyway, I do a lot of talking to people. So we have developers both at Moodle HQ in Perth, but Moodle also has some people working on contract around the world. And of course, there's a large community. I'll give you some numbers in a minute, actually, on the community of developers. And just getting those people to work together, you know, requires a fair bit of, you know, talking. Although we don't have any TPS reports at Moodle HQ, so in fact we're pretty paperless. That's pretty good. What else do I do? Well, I do occasionally do research and academic work, but I've also been writing a bit of a book with Gavin, who's here. This is brand new. So if you're after a pretty authoritative book on the current state of Moodle add-ons, this is a great one. And it's not just a review of the add-ons as well. There's some excellent work at the beginning on advising you how add-ons work, how the whole system works, how to set up a test server, and then the thing that I find really useful for people in real institutions is advice on establishing processes for adopting and integrating and going through the whole life cycle of plugins. A lot of that has come from Gavin's experience, and so it's really well founded in the real world. So yeah, I am not personally gaining any cash from this. My benefits are a bit more tangible. But I can say that if you purchase this through the Moodle Books site, which is the URL anyway, it's on moodle.org, then Moodle will get 10% of the sale, which is great. And finally, and perhaps most relevant to this application, this presentation, is the notion of triage. I guess when people interact in the Moodle tracker, which I'm going to be talking about in depth, I'm sort of there trying to oversee things, particularly at the point where issues are reported. and that's what we call triage. So when a new issue comes in, somebody should look at it. It doesn't always happen, but we try and get eyes on issues as they come in. So there are various components doing that, but quite often it's me. All right. Now, before I get into the sort of ways in which you can use the Moodle tracker system to contribute your ideas and make Moodle better, I just wanted to put things in a bit of context. So I'm going to start off by adding some numbers to this conversation, if you like. And starting off with Moodle Core. Now, Moodle Core, if you like, is the part of Moodle which contains the various libraries and bits of information that you don't often see on the surface, but they're critical to Moodle. Now, Moodle has been compared to all sorts of other sorts of systems, but trying to find an equivalent piece of software to a learning management system in general, it's a very complex thing. It's almost like an operating system on your computer, because you install it. If you just install Moodle Core by itself, it doesn't do much at all, but really it's there as a basis for adding plugins, which are very important. Now, Moodle comes with some standard plugins, and the current count of plugins that get distributed with Moodle is 316. I looked that up, and it was actually surprising, even to me, that there's that many in there. And it's thanks for posting that link, Gareth. And so yeah, that's probably, in order to make use of the Moodle Core, you need to have those plugins, and it also illustrates the modularity of Moodle. So Moodle, the M in Moodle means modular, and that means that you can add and remove bits of functionality. As well as that, there are plugins that are contributed by developers around the world, and we refer to those as add-ons. Excuse me. At the moment, in the plugins directory, there are 589 visible. There's a few that are hidden away because they haven't been approved for various reasons, which is still not that. We had a previous sort of repository for add-ons, and they had over 600, but we're almost there. We're almost at the equivalent number. What I can say about the new repository, the plugins directory, is that they're all pretty recent and up to date. So you can be a bit more assured that the ones in the current plugins directory have been filtered quite strongly, and they're available for various versions. And there's all sorts of other benefits of using that new directory as well. But we need not go there. All right. So now, that's like the code of Moodle. That's the program, the software that is Moodle, if you like. The core bits, and then the bits that you can plug into it. Now, who works on this? Well, I guess the people that write it and maintain it, we have at Moodle HQ. Currently, I did a count, and there are 19 developers. So these people are basically paid. They're either full-time or part-time, working on mostly the Moodle Core and standard plugins. Although some of them have add-ons that they've shared, but that's sort of a different sort of part of their job. It's not that huge, really, 19 people. If you compare it to other software companies, we're still relatively small. And the reason for that is, well, we're not the whole, developer community. We are just sort of the focal point of that. There are roughly, by my estimates, about 400 developers. Some of them are inactive, some of them are very active, but these are the people who we must thank for Moodle, both as developers of standard plugins and add-ons, and occasionally contributing to Moodle Core generally. But even still, that's not a huge number, 400 developers. and most of those developers are working only part-time on Moodle. In the Moodle tracker, which is the system I'm going to talk about in some depth in a minute, this is the system where we interact on development. There are roughly 23,000 users. So on top of those 400 developers, there are another 22,600 users. And these are the people who are keen to make Moodle better. They are willing to sacrifice some part of their time in some way to report an improvement or report a bug or be involved in testing in some way. And so those people are doing their bit, even though they're not developers, to do that. And their contribution is very valuable, of course. Now, of course, none of these numbers really, this is certainly not even to scale. It's sort of dwarfed by the size of the community. And I put 70 million on there, which is about the number of users. Yeah. That's on users of registered sites. And we can't really say what proportion of sites out there are actually registered. The best estimate I can give is probably between 10 and 50%. It's pretty loose. I know that, for instance, just in China, there's a lot of Moodle use going on, but we hardly get any registrations from China. I don't know if it's a social thing. Perhaps someone from China could tell me why, but we just don't see them in those numbers. So it's probably a bigger number than 70 million. How much bigger, I can't really say. But then, yeah, I guess it's worth noting that those 70 million people are relying on those 400 odd developers through the 23,000 tracker users to make Moodle keep progressing and keep getting better. That's the context we're working in. While we're talking about making Moodle better, it's worth talking about the sites that the community can make use of to interact to make Moodle better. Moodle.org, I guess, is out there, and there's various parts to Moodle.org, which includes the forums. These are very active conversations going on 24 hours a day, people talking about various perspectives on Moodle in different languages, and there's some people talking about development, other people talking about use, installation, administration. So depending on how you're involved with Moodle at your institution, there's probably a forum out there that you could be involved in, or at least lurk around and ask questions. I've mentioned the plugins directory. This is where we share plugins. So the non-standard ones, these add-ons, are all featured there. We're doing our best to try and introduce as many shared plugins as we can through that. But they do have to go through a good review process to make sure the quality is okay. But you can find out all sorts of things about each plugin, statistics, information about the authors, links to other bits of information like documentation and so on. And about downloads. So downloads is basically the place where you can get Moodle. There are various ways of getting Moodle, but through Moodle.org there is a specific area for downloads, and you can grab the latest Moodle there. The tracker system is only notionally part of Moodle.org actually, but its URL is tracker.moodle.org, so I'll count it in there. And that's probably what I'm going to be spending the most of this presentation talking about. And finally, the docs. The docs are there's two forms of the docs. There are user docs, which if you're a user and you want to find out how to use Moodle, you can go to the user docs and you'll get the latest version related to your version of Moodle. So each version of Moodle gets a new docs wiki, and that has as the system changes and grows, the docs are improved. A few years back we separated out what we call the dev docs from the user docs, mostly just to, not because we like to be secretive or anything like that, but because it's a bit confusing for people who are non-developers to jump into a bunch of documentation and all of a sudden be confronted with code. So we do that, and it also allows us to have a sort of a different support policy for those docs. We don't do a new version of the dev docs for every release. We just sort of gradually change them over time. Sort of lurking around the border of Moodle.org, we've got Moodle.net, and that's a tremendous system from what I've seen. I haven't had too many dealings with it myself personally, but if you're a teacher and you're looking for courses or course content, that is the place to go. It's also, if you've got some really excellent examples of courses and course content that you would be willing to share, it is the place to do that. You can browse that site, or you can interact with it, at least for courses, through the Moodle Hub. So if you've got Moodle Community Hub registered, we used to call it Mooch, but it's now called Moodle.net, and you can go and actually get backups of courses and install them, restore them on your site and check them out. It might just be that you're interested in seeing what other people do and seeing how they set up their courses. It's great to be able to do that. And the final bit of the puzzle here are our demo sites, and we have a few, but the three ones that I direct you to. You got demo.moodle.net, and that is basically just a blank sandbox where you can go in and play, and all of these, by the way, get reset hourly. The school.demo.moodle.net is loaded with content, and it's content that's designed to be, I guess, close to realistic in terms of various levels of education, and it's also for different disciplines, so arts, maths, science. There's quite a few represented there, so you can get sort of a more realistic feel for what Moodle can do in your real-world application. The qa.moodle.net is mostly for testing. You can go and make use of that, and I'll talk about sort of replication a bit later on. If you've got a problem and you want to see if it's a problem on somebody else's site, qa.moodle.net basically represents the latest Moodle even before it's released. So you can go in there and check it out. Okay, a bit of history that's sort of setting the tone for the sort of talk that will follow, and I'll just go through this relatively quickly. It's talking about not the growth in Moodle as a system that's being used around the world, but the growth of Moodle as a system loaded with features. So Moodle sort of started in 1999, but the first 1.0 release was around 2002. So that's when it became public. Now, for the first few years of its life, it was true open source. It was basically, if you had any interest in developing something for Moodle, you could get access to a repository and you could drop in code. Now, we're a bit more strict because, well, it's responsible to be a bit more strict at the moment considering the scale of things today. But let's just say that initially there was a large amount of growth in the features of Moodle, people contributing plugins and subsystems and so on. So going on, 2006, there was a big boom there. We had all sorts of new features coming in. It started to become quite a widespread system, and people's interest in tailoring Moodle to their needs was reflected by the growth of features in Moodle. And if an institution, and I was involved in such activities, was looking at comparing Moodle to other systems, it would be checklists of features, and you'd put them side by side, and the one with the most checkboxes would win. And Moodle was doing quite well in those sorts of comparisons, quite often because of the plug-in potential. So really, a lot of adoption of Moodle came about for that reason. Since then, though, there's been a bit of a slowdown in the number of features we add on. So I think most people would agree that the current feature set is relatively stable and it covers most of what most people want to do. There's still obviously the plugins there for extending things further, and people are always welcome to take Moodle and customize it to whatever needs they have. So at Moodle HQ at least, our focus has been, instead of going on growth, after Moodle 2 there was a fair bit of growth there, but a lot of the work was just to make a system which is more workable into the future. So a lot of the changes that came about in the Moodle architecture, so the way it's designed under the hood, were there, and they were done so that going into the future it would be easier to work with. And so things have sort of settled down since then. And our current perspective really is to look at not so much can we add more features, but can we make the current feature set work better. So user interface in particular, and not just on desktop machines, but also on other devices like tablets, phones, and anything you might want to use it on, has been a lot of the focus and is still a lot of our focus now. Also trying to allow Moodle to be extensible, to be changeable, and you can drop things in and out more easily. So there's more interaction in the system with the plugins directory. So all right, so I think I've set the groundwork in place. What I'm going to do now is sort of take you on a bit of a process, a bit of a tour through how you could interact with the community that's looking to improve Moodle, and trying to avoid being overwhelmed by nerdy developers, talking about databases and code and things like that. So we're not going to talk about that sort of stuff at all. Now, if you were a person you've got an idea, or you've found some problem and you want to sort of share that, first of all, I'd say thank you very much, because it takes a bit of guts to go from the point where you're just annoyed but sort of living with something to where you're saying, look, I'm prepared to put my neck out there and say I'd like to have this fixed, or I'd like to see this changed. It takes a bit of an investment of time as well to go and make a report. Not a huge amount of time, just a few minutes, but it's odd. I think most people would just continue going on and living with something, but it takes a special person to stand up and say, I'm prepared to do something about it. So if you're that person and you're wondering where to start, my first piece of advice would be to go through and do a bit of a search. Now, there are, at the moment, about 40,000 issues in the Moodle tracker system, and you can go and search through those, 40,000 Moodle-related issues, I should say, in there. We use the tracker for other purposes as well. So if you wanted to do a search, the first place you could go is tracker.moodle.org. I'll just type that in there so that people can see it, tracker.moodle.org. And that will take you to this system. It's a piece of software that we didn't write. It's a widely used sort of bug tracking system that's used by other development organizations as well. But you don't need to know that. What you need to know is, how do I get in there and do a search? Up the top left, you'll see a few menus, and one of them is issues. So you want to search through the issues that are in Moodle. So every bit of improvement request or bug report or whatever, we just commonly refer to those as issues. When you click on the issues button here, you'll be taken to another page which is sort of in the second half. So this is 2 screenshots in one slide, and it allows you to do a bit of a search at that point for issues. So 49,000 is the count that I got the other day. That includes Moodle issues as well as issues related to other parts like the mobile app, QA testing, our own sites and so forth. We use this tool for all of those. So in order to narrow your search down to the specifics that you're interested in, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're only searching for issues related to the Moodle software, the Moodle, we call it the Moodle project in here. And you do that by clicking on that first button, which is the project button. And instead of searching all projects that we host in this tracker system, you just want to search in the Moodle project. So you tick that box, and then it'll shift from everything just down to Moodle stuff. Okay, and as you can see, that dropped down from 49,000 to 39,000. So, by the way, that's things that are open, closed, and everything else. The next sort of piece of information you might add is a few keywords, and in this sort of sense, it's the same as a web search. And I hope I can assume that you've all done a web search on Google or some other search engine, and so you put in some keywords there, and it will look through all of the text in various issues for those keywords, and then you'll start to narrow things down. If you add some keywords, you can press enter or press this magnifying glass, click that, and you'll do more of a search. I guess you sort of want to start off broad and then narrow your way down. So if I wanted to go further, I've in this particular slide, I'll zoom in again, I have indicated that I want to look in the Moodle project. I've added some keywords, but I haven't actually hit enter there at that stage. But I can search in various specific parts of Moodle. Now, in order to search for, just say I wanted to search for problems with the assignment module, I have to say I want to search for things related to the assignment component. So component is the term that we refer to as, different parts of Moodle. Now, if I go to the next slide, or it might just be an extra bit on this slide. So if I go down the bottom now, when I say I want to search for various components, the list I get, as you can see there, is pretty diverse. It's not just about modules like the assignment module. It can be also about more general parts of the physical representation of Moodle, like administration, so things that you can access through the site admin menu, or it could be just general concepts that relate to Moodle, like accessibility. So we have these components in a way of organizing our issues and allowing us to focus on different parts. We also have various people who are responsible for various parts of Moodle through these components. So someone's responsible for assignment, another person sees all the administration issues and so on. So they're not all equal there, but they're a way of identifying a part of Moodle. And you're not necessarily bound to just select one. You can search for more than one in that list. So if you've narrowed things down, so if I did a search, this is the results of a search of Moodle issues with the keywords, I think that's assignment and error, in the assignment component, and I ended up with 118 issues related to that. I'm only showing the first one here, but trust me, there's a few more listed down below that. The next thing I would do if I'm searching is to order them by creation date, from the most recent to the oldest. And the reason why I would suggest that you do that is because it sort of shows a bit of a history that way. If you're working with the latest version of Moodle yourself, and someone's reported a similar bug to what you're seeing, or an idea for an improvement similar to what you're thinking, it's going to be up the top of that list, because obviously that bug or that idea wasn't possible before. So doing things time-wise is probably a good way of searching through for the the bits that you're interested in. All right, so now once you've done your searching, this is a bit of an advanced thing before I move on to the other steps. If you're spending a bit more time in the tracker, you can switch from that button view, which is called basic view, into a more advanced view, which is sort of more of a text query. You can achieve a bit more through this form of querying, and the system does do some interaction, so it checks your query as you're typing it to make sure it's correct, and it does try and give you various prompts as it can. So if you're looking for a component, you can start typing the name of the component and it'll try and fill in the rest of it for you. But I would say if you're not familiar with ways of searching, stick to the basics. But if you're keen and you're in here a bit more often, switching to the advanced is certainly something that would maybe save you a bit of time as well. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that. That's fine. Okay, Teresa's got a vote for the basic. All right, now I guess coming out of your search, you're either going to have found something similar to what you were interested in reporting, or you haven't. Now let's go down the route where you found something similar to what you were interested in. So you wanted to report a bug or suggest an improvement or something else. You found an issue. Rather than just sort of leaving it at that and saying, well, I assume that'll get fixed now, it's there, I'll just go away and never come back. You can add your backing to it, if you like, and your interest to it by a number of means. So watching an issue basically means I want to see any changes that happen in this issue. I want to be notified when things change. I'll show you how to do this in a minute, but basically if you're watching an issue and something changes, you get notified by email. Voting is your sign of support for an issue. Very easy to do. It's basically a click of a button and you're saying, I'm interested in this issue being progressed. Comment is adding your textual input into a comment field in the issue. And the benefit of that is people can see that other people are working on the issue, and you might be able to add a bit more information that wasn't clear before, or maybe you're just agreeing or supporting the issue. Okay, let's go and have a quick look at how you do those things. Okay, so back in the tracker, by the way, searching doesn't require any login at all. You can go searching through the tracker quite freely without even logging in. However, if you want to be involved a bit more and do watching, voting, and commenting, obviously that's tied to an account. So you need to actually log in. You don't have to provide any serious personal information. I guess the most personal bit there is an email address, and the rest can be quite anonymous if you really wanted to. But yeah, once you've logged in, you'll see the options for voting and watching. This is a view of the top right corner of the tracker page. So if you're viewing an issue, these options are available to you. To watch the issue, all you do is click on the word watch, and you're added to the watch list. To vote for an issue, it's the same. You just click on the word vote, and you'll add your vote. It doesn't even require a page reload. It just happens through a bit of background processing. If you want to add a comment, you scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you'll find this comment button, and you can add your 2 cents there, or something useful as well, a bit of detail, maybe some more information. And once you click that button, you get a text box. The comments in the tracker system work through a wiki syntax if you've used a wiki before. But if you haven't, just type away, and whatever you type there is pretty much how it'll appear when the comment is saved. All right, now what about the other route? So you did your search and you didn't find what you were looking for. Now, I've got some highlighted there in orange because I want to make a distinction here between reporting a bug, which is a problem in Moodle, versus suggesting an improvement. If you're just going to suggest improvement, you could probably just skip to going through and creating the issue, obviously providing as much detail about your idea and how you think it would benefit people to change Moodle in a particular way. But that can be off the top of your head. That's all right. However, if you're reporting a bug, before you go and create the issue, you might want to do a bit of research. Obviously, the more detail we have for an issue, the easier it is for developers, either at HQ or anywhere, to work on that issue. If you provide just a very general description of the problem, people are just going to look at it and say, well, I can't do anything about that. I don't have enough information, and they will just leave it and skip it. So what do you go and do? Well, it doesn't have to be anything terribly technical. It's mostly through how you can go in and replicate the problem that you found. So what we ask for is replication steps. So when you're reporting your issue, and I'll go through the process of creating an issue in a minute, but one of the things that we would like to see there is a list of steps that you go through. I log in as a teacher. I go into my course, create an assignment, and so on and so on. In that way, you're describing how somebody else could come along and do the same steps to find the same problem. Once you've got some replication steps, you might want to do a check to see if it's not just a problem in your system, but is more of a general problem for everyone. If you have access to another system, that's great. You can have your own test server. They're not that hard to set up. But if you don't, one of the demo sites that I mentioned earlier are a great place to do your replication. So you can go into one of those sites, try and set up the same situation and see if the same error occurs there. And hopefully that'll help you to figure out whether that's a specific problem related to your site or if it's a more general one. So once you're confident that you've got a good set of replication steps and it's a pretty generalizable problem, you can then go in and create an issue in the tracker. So let me lead you through how that works. Gareth has voted for screenshots, which I'll mention in a minute. Okay, so up the top right of the tracker, you have to be logged in order to create an issue. You can't do that anonymously. But you'll find this create issue link, and when you click on that, you're presented with a screen mode here. Yep, there we go. Which is the sort of the minimal information that we ask for from a reporter. This is the low scariness version that we came up with. This is not the full information that you can add. No worries, Megan. Hopefully you didn't miss much. But this is the basic minimum. Okay, so let's just run through it. First of all, project up the top. Now I mentioned earlier there are a few projects that we use the Moodle tracker for, and the one that we're mostly interested in obviously is the Moodle project, which is related to the Moodle software. That's the default usually, but you might want to check that that's the case. Moving down to the next input there is your issue type. So that allows you to make the distinction between a bug or an improvement or a new feature. And we're going to go down the road of saying we've found a bug in our hypothetical sort of situation at the moment. The next field down is a summary, and you can sort of see that as like a heading for your report here. It should be quite concise. People will be searching, and when they do searching, this is the text that will appear. And so it should be enough to identify the problem, but not any specific details within that. Okay, it shouldn't be multiple sentences. It doesn't even need to be a whole sentence. It just needs to be terms that describe the problem as quickly and concisely as possible. The description is sort of a free-form comment on what the problem is, and again, it uses that wiki notation, but you don't have to be familiar with any specific. So if you just type, it will come out looking the way it appears in the text box. But you'll notice there I've started, if you can see that, some replication steps. So I've just got a general sort of description of the problem, and I've run through and added some replication steps. We'll talk a bit more about replication steps a little later, but it's just the series of steps, as I mentioned, that you go through to that someone could follow those steps to find the same problem. You've got a version, which is the version of Moodle that you're using. You don't need to specify all affected versions, just the latest one that you're using that you know is affected there. The components we mentioned earlier are the parts of Moodle that you're wanting to report a problem about. You can, add multiple components in there. If you just start typing them, you can add them, or there's sort of a drop-down thing over on the right-hand side you can click on. And security level, basically, if you think something's going wrong and Moodle is providing access to people that shouldn't be providing access to, or sharing information that in the wrong way, that becomes a far more serious problem, and we deal with them slightly differently. If you're interested in if your problem might be a security problem, there's a bit of help there to define what level, and there's also an I'm not really sure level could be a security issue which you can choose, and we'll sort that out because that comes up pretty high on our list. All right, so that's the basics, and then when you put those in, you've created an issue, and you get taken. Well, now you don't get taken to it. There's a little pop-up saying, "Congratulations, you've created your issue." You can go to that issue then in the tracker, and you can add more information. So if you could, and I really encourage you to do so, go in and click the edit button, and you've got an opportunity to add a bit more information on top of that basic initial screen. Now, when you do click that edit button, you'll see that the top part of that are the same things that you added before. Now, I'm going to go through a few more bits of information. There's some here that you're probably not interested in at all. They're there for processes that come about later when developers are working on them, but some of them are relevant to everybody. Priority is one that we use a number of factors to figure out what we need to be working on in Moodle development, and priority is one of those. So that goes from everything from trivial up to blocker. I don't think we really need to go through all of the levels individually, but you can set, if you're the reporter of an issue, you can set the priority to what you think it should be. I do ask you to use some prudence when you do that, because you are, in a way, representing the whole community. So to say that, I have this issue and I think it's really, really serious, try and consider it from other people's points of view there. If you have something like, I would like an improvement where I'd like to see all the buttons being purple, and I think that Moodle shouldn't be released until that happens. If you go in and set that as a blocker, people are probably going to come in and disagree with you, and it may well change. But yeah, so you can conscious of the whole community being involved there. If we were to scroll down, you can see I've left priority up the top, and there's a few more fields down further for describing the environment. It could be the environment of the server that you're running Moodle on, the computer that's running Moodle at your institution, or it could be related to the computer that you're using to access Moodle. Like, that could be information about the web browser that you're using, or the operating system, or whatever. Similarly for the database, if that's particularly related to servers, sometimes problems only occur with certain databases, but not others. So it's useful to put that in, but only if you really know it. If you don't really know, if you could find out, that's helpful. But if you don't know, you don't have to put it. All right. Gareth says in 5 years he's only found and reported one blocker, but I bet it was really a blocker though. Otherwise you probably wouldn't have done it. We've got a workaround field. So the workaround means that you've seen a problem, for example, but you were able to work around it and do something else to achieve the same end. It's useful to put that information into an issue, because other people might have the same problem and not have figured out how to get around it. And it may take some time for this problem to get fixed. And in the meantime, your workaround may benefit a bunch of people. All right. someone mentioned screenshots before. You can add attachments, and one of the sorts of attachments that you can add is screenshots. So assuming that you know how to create a screenshot, just a screen grab, hopefully you can identify. This is particularly in user interface issues. You can go and say, well, this is where the problem was. Not only is it proof, but it's a good example, particularly for developers who are using the system in quite a different way to teachers and so on, to see where the problem really is. But you can also add other sorts of attachments as well. If you've got some sort of output from Moodle, some of the plugins create output, or if you're working in a course and you've created an activity, you can create an anonymous backup and then share that, and that will illustrate the settings and the context of this problem that you're having. Attach those two. And at the end, if you've made a change, you might want to add a comment at the same time, just describing why you made a particular change or whatever. So you can keep editing the issue and adding more information over time. All right. Now, what's in a good report? It's enough to say, all right, this is how to do it, but what makes an issue really valuable? I guess from a teaching point of view, it's like saying, it's like spooning the content to a student, but to make it really live, you probably want to make it relevant to the student as well. I guess in a way, we have to make issues relevant to people who might be able to fix them, and we do that by enriching the description of the issue and a few other things as well. This particular thing in relation to description here, I'm talking mostly about bug reports. However, if you're putting in so it doesn't really relate to improvements. But we talked earlier, and what I suggest is, as well as coming up with a good, concise set of steps, and try and make it really step by step if you can. Don't make assumptions that the person who's going to be replicating your problem has even used that part of Moodle before, because we have developers who might be working in a particular area, may never have created an assignment. They're not necessarily teachers themselves, so they do need specific information. The people at Moodle HQ have a bit more experience, but the people who are working as developers outside are only working part-time. They may be volunteers, and they may not have the same exposure. Also, don't assume that the person will know what you expect to happen at the end of your replication steps. Provide the expected outcome. I expected this to submit the assignment, and also the actual thing. So this ended up providing an error or resulting in an error. Instead of doing what I thought it would. Now, sometimes there are errors that appear on the page. Some of those will appear regardless, but quite often, certainly for production sites, so for sites, real-world sites, the error messages are hidden. If you want to get more information and provide it to a developer, you can go into the administration settings and turn up the developer debugging level. And what that does is it produces more information about errors as they happen. If you're using a live site, you might want to skip over to another site to do this, or if you're game, you can turn that up temporarily, see the errors, copy and paste them, and then turn that level back down again so that students aren't seeing errors later on. If you're dealing with a user interface issue, it may be related to JavaScript, which is the language that's running inside your browser rather than on the server. And most browsers provide an error console, which you probably have to turn on to see those errors. But so if you're dealing with a user interface issue, like this page is loading abnormally slowly, it may be because of some JavaScript problem that's going on the page, so there may be some errors appearing that you can't see without turning on that console. Capturing that sort of information is like gold for developers. They can see from that exactly where things are going wrong, and they can jump straight into the code and try and fix it. There we go. Try and be accurate about the components. As I said right at the start when we were talking about searching, it's one of those features that you use to search and distinguish between components. It is a really useful sort of piece of information, and it allows us to segregate the tracker issues in different ways. So try and get coverage. So if you're talking about the assignment module, but there might be a usability issue with that, then choose both assignment and usability. Be concise and try and look through the whole list. There are some very generic options in there, but generally we can avoid those if we go and put a bit more thought into it. A bit laggy here. So environment information, if you can be specific about what sort of environment you're working in, that can be helpful too, because it might be a specific problem in your environment, or with your particular browser or something like that. I'm working in on an iPad with iOS 5 and I'm using the Chrome browser. That's a pretty specific environment. The problem might not appear in other places, in other environments, so we can try and replicate the problem again. We need that information. Okay, a workaround I mentioned is useful for the life of the issue until it's fixed, and in some cases that could be quite a long time. So providing that information helps people in the interim. Finally, yes, enriching the issue with screenshots, particularly for user interface issues, allows people. A picture speaks 1,000 words. It's very much true with this sort of thing. Also, if you've got course backups for very sort of specific course, this is where I'm having a problem. This is where it comes about. Providing a backup, it's more than just proof. It's also a means for testing down the track. All right, so we've gone through the path where you've reported an issue, be it an improvement or a bug fix, and you've gotten to the end here, or you came down this path where you found an issue and you became involved in it. Sometimes it's worthwhile to go and look for a forum related to the issue that you're talking about in the tracker, and to raise this issue there, or to discuss the issue there. What it can do is bring more attention to your tracker issue, and might bring more people in to become involved in that particular issue. Not necessarily mandatory by any means, but it can help you promote an issue and get some more interaction way. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a large user community. We've got a number of developers, but generally there's not enough developers to fulfill everyone's wish. So we tend to be working on issues in a priority order. And your priorities might not necessarily be the same priorities of others. So you might say, well, I have a specific need here. So it may be the case that you really want to invest into that. So you could, if you want to, find a volunteer or perhaps even pay for a developer to work on your particular issue. When they do that, obviously you'll benefit from it because you're going to get the fix and you can apply that on your instance of Moodle. I would encourage you also to put forward any sort of results of such development so that they can be shared with others and potentially incorporated into a future version of Moodle. There are different ways that developers can do that, but let's just say that they can put forward what's called a patch that will allow other people to apply their changes. All right. A brief look at what happens afterwards, and I'm sorry, I'm taking up probably a bit more time than I should, but I'm almost there now. So after your issue is reported, it goes through a bit of triage, which means that basically someone gets eyes on it. looks for perhaps if it's a valid report, if it can be replicated. Perhaps they might even ask for other information. You know, could you tell us what browser you're using, and the accuracy of the report in general. Perhaps it needs a bit more information, might need some more components. They might see that there's other things that can be done there. It may sit in the tracker for a short period of time if it's a very high priority issue, or potentially it may sit there for quite a long while if it's sort of low down in the list of priorities. Assuming that it gets picked up for development at some stage, either by someone at a Moodle HQ or elsewhere around the world, the person will assign themselves to the issue and start working on the issue. If they come up with a solution, they'll present that. It then goes to another developer to review it. Those sort of changes, you know, get scrutinized. There might be a bit of interaction back and forth for the development, you know, the change. If it's seen as acceptable to be included into Moodle, it goes then to an integration team. They have the final sort of say of whether things get in or not, and they're pretty strict. These are the top sort of most experienced developers. They'll put it into a temporary instance where it can be tested to make sure that it is working the way that it should. And then everyone gets the fix and everyone's happy. Of course. All right. Finally, it's going to pop up. I'm still not seeing the final. There it is. Okay. A bit of fun. We have a postcard wall at Moodle HQ. We receive postcards from all over the world, and I don't know where you are, but I would sort of suggest that you might consider sending something from where you are. That's sort of nice way of saying hello to Moodle HQ. Sometimes these developers need to be reminded that they're not just looking at code, that they are in fact supporting a community. From the French Moodle Moot. Wow, you're doing well, Mary. Are you going to be speaking in French or English? From Duncraig. French, wow. Awesome. That's why I don't get invited to French moots. Anyway. Yeah, that'd be awesome, Andrew, if you could. Anyway, yeah, so that's our address. It's, 1/224 Lord Street in Perth. There's a postcode and a country, depending on where you are, I suppose. And yeah, we really like getting those postcards, and it really gives the developers a bit of a fun grin as well. All right. Is there anyone with questions now? We have, Gareth, we have sort of discussed a few things there. Dan Marsden, he is sort of involved with the SCORM module. He was looking at the possibility of getting some crowdsource funding for improvements on SCORM. I think in the end I don't know if he's given up completely on that yet, but I think he decided that it was easier just to find individuals who are interested in investing in it, and then they could sponsor the changes. Yeah, is Tracker still so too scary for non-techies? I hope not. And if anyone ever gets into the situation where, you know, either they are a non-technical person or they're dealing with a non-technical person and they just need some help, feel free to shoot me an email, and you know, or there's lots of other people as well who can just help out. If someone's just so afraid of reporting something on Tracker, but they're game to just send an email, just shoot it to us and we can go from there. All right. Yeah, I will say that I think the idea has been raised at HQ for general development, and you know, it's a positive idea. But it's not absolutely necessary. I guess what we do at HQ is we're trying to trying to employ people on an ongoing basis as regular sort of people. So our current model of where we get the majority of our funding from partners is a really good one because it gives us a continuous stream of income, and we can then sort of put people into teams, and we can try and focus on various priorities. If we were to sort of set up some sort of fund and say, if you really like this issue, please contribute a few dollars, we'd have to tear one of those developers away from the projects that they are working on and say, all right, go and work on that for a few bucks. I guess we're not really taking funding for specific sort of issues at this stage, but I don't know, maybe if there was some sort of more general model, it might be easier to do. I don't know. I haven't really thought it through properly, I suppose. Yeah. I can't go on without purple buttons. It is, and sometimes maybe just if you raise it, other people will comment. I often find that people will underrate in terms of priority, either because they don't know they can change the priority or because they're being conservative. Things that are often, serious security problems, people might report as just minor issues, and then you go, hang on, this is probably something we should take more seriously. I think it's more often that than people over-reporting the significance of a problem. All right. Well, I'm glad I could help you, Andrew. I think everybody else here that was here earlier, most of them have snuck off now. I sort of know. Anyway, thanks everybody for being involved. I hope that it was valuable, and hopefully the recording of this will be available afterwards. What do you reckon, Dom? Are you still awake?
Yeah, I'm very much awake. Thank you very much. I was thinking of some postcards, but I don't think they have got postcards of Alfred Cove. Never mind.
Yeah. How long have you been working for, Dom?
How long have I been with Moodle?
No, just today. Today in the iMoot. I know you guys have like...
Oh, how long? Oh, no. I only started at 3 o'clock, so I've still got another 4 or 5 hours to go.
Yay. Well, and then it's over, right?
Something like that, yes. No, we're enjoying it. Well, thanks again for your presentation. Great to see the party background, the festivity that you've had there. And yeah, it's still recorded, so we'll hopefully others will get to listen to it too.
Yeah, is there some way of extracting the recordings out of the big blue button? Or are they stuck
we
in there?
we will be editing it because it's got all the guff 15 minutes before we start. That all starts recording, so we will be editing them and cutting back just to the presentations after the iMoot. But yes, there will be a place for you to get it after the iMoot.
Awesome. Yeah, and they'll be public, not just for attendees?
I'm not sure. I think they're for attendees, and then after a while they become public or something like that.
That'd be good. I mean, because it'd be nice. Well, I mean, in terms of the sort of presentation today, if someone comes along and says, "How do I use the tracker?" I can go, "Well, here you go."
Yeah. Well, most definitely. I mean, we can always make those ones available. If it's for the community and stuff, that's not a problem.
All right. Well, thanks, Dom. Catch you sometime soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Gareth, Gavin,
Thank
and
you very
Mary
much.
who hang around. And yeah, you guys. I'm going to go off and have my dinner now.
Bye.
All right. See ya.
You are currently the only person in this conference.